Hey, you guys, for our historical fiction book clubs that we have been a part of, today we're going to extend it a little bit further. And as you're reading, I want you to really focus on thinking as if you were someone else. We're going to get to that today for Reading Workshop. So, do you guys remember when you were in fourth grade, late fourth grade, and you had just learned about your new room assignment? And all of you had learned that you were coming into my room. Now, for all the years that I've been teaching, people always sit there and they say negative things about me. And people always sit there and I always hear, oh, you're so unlucky to be in his class. He's such a mean teacher. He's so hard. And I'm sure all those thoughts were going through your mind because you've heard stories of what people have said about me. And you probably have your own thoughts based on those stories or your own ideas based on maybe having a couple of encounters with me. But then you come into the room and then you start to learn about me. You learn about my personality. You learn about the things that we do in class. And all of a sudden, those things that you've been learning change your mind about me. And you no longer have those initial thoughts that you had maybe in late fourth grade or even on the first day of school. Those thoughts change. Well, that same concept holds true with our historical fiction book clubs. We can look at characters in the same way. We might have an initial thought about them, but the more we learn about them, all of a sudden our opinion starts changing about them. So this brings me to today's teaching point, and that is you guys have to get to know the characters in your historical fiction books. You step into a period in which they live, not in which you live, but in which the character is living. And you have to try to see the world through the eyes of a person back in that time. It's like going through a time machine. And if you are reading a book on the Great Depression or in the Holocaust, you can't sit there and think that the things are the same way they are now, because they're not. You have to put yourself in the time period of the character of when the event is happening. Once again, it's showing empathy. You're putting yourself in the character's shoes. Do you notice how this term empathy keeps coming up throughout the entire year? Because it's so important in order to be such a great reader. You have to show empathy and you have to understand the time periods and the settings in which your story is taking place. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate this concept by going ahead and doing it to the book that I'm reading on my own. It's this one right here. It's Number the Stars. Phenomenal book regarding Germany back around right around World War II. There's a character in the story. Her name is Anne Marie. And Anne Marie gets terrified when she hears the German word halt, which also means stop. So one day they were running down the street and they were giggling and they were laughing and they're having a good time, Anne Marie and her friend. And they heard a German soldier yell out the word halt for them to stop. Now, I understand that it can be embarrassing if you're asked to stop by, a guard or a policeman or a teacher because you were doing something a little bit goofy, and that can be a little bit embarrassing. But policemen and guards of any kind that I know of are here to protect us, right? And I couldn't really truly understand why Anne Marie was acting the way that she did, why she is so terrified of this word and why she's so terrified of this guard. But then I thought to myself, this is a story that takes place during World War II when horrible things were happening. You have war. You have families being broken apart. You have the Holocaust where, millions of Jews were being rounded up and murdered. I mean, on top of that, people maybe that were crippled or handicapped or were a different religion. So a lot of things were happening during that time. And I've never had to experience soldiers being in my town, guarding us. So I don't understand the terror with that. I've never lived in a time where war was around my own home. But then I put myself into her shoes during that time period, knowing that it was during World War II, knowing that there's a war going on, knowing that families are being ripped up. And now I can understand why that word halt strikes such fear in her, because it would strike fear in me too. So it's important to realize that when you're reading a book You're thinking about the time period that's taking place, because that's going to help you really understand why the character is doing the things that they're doing and why they could be terrified of such a simple word like halt. So for today, let me just summarize very quickly what it is that we covered today in this video. As you're reading, and if a character does something that you kind of question or doesn't really make sense, stop and ask yourself why. Why is a character acting this way? And then look at the time period from which the story is happening. And then put yourself in that character's shoes, showing some empathy during that time period, and see it from that character's point of view or from their eyes if you were living back then. How would you act? How would you react to that situation? By doing this simple little thing is going to help you understand your book so much more. You're going to find so much more enjoyment out of it by just showing a little bit of empathy. So that's what I really want you to focus on today for Reading Workshop, and then bring those into your discussions, into your book club discussions every day. Good luck.